down, my job as a leader is to convince that individual, yeah, it may go down for a couple of days, couple of weeks, whatever the transition period is, but the new tool set, the new process, the new concept, the new way of doing things, when you get up to speed, is going to increase your ceiling. So where
There's one thing I value, it's real talk.
I am so excited about being on this episode with you. I think this will be the first time we've been together on a broadcast.
Yep. Now we've done a
Um,
lot of presentations together, but
yeah,
first broadcast for sure.
yes, and I like really enjoy you as a professional, and like I like your vibe, and I think you have a lot to offer and just who you are. But tell everybody who you are.
Well, first of all, Robin, I didn't know I had a vibe, but I appreciate
You
that.
definitely have a vibe.
No, I appreciate that. My name is Don Monistere. I'm the CEO and president of General Informatics. Man, I've been in technology my entire career, so right out of college, and it was really by accident. I heard about this new thing called the personal computer, right?
Okay, that's my day.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I need to know more about that. I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm sure I can't afford a mainframe. So let me see if I can go figure out how to do this
Okay,
PC thing. And so my entire thesis around this industry was I just needed to know more about a personal computer. And what I found was I had a knack not only for electronics and technology, but also software. So man, right out of college. In fact, my last semester, I went to work for a systems integration company. And as I tell my kids all the time, this was before email. They always say, what did y'all do in
yeah,
technology if you
right.
didn't
We
have
called
email?
each other.
Right, exactly. But yeah, those were the days when the clone PC was really booming, and we were doing a whole bunch of Novell NetWare installs back in the day. So,
Okay, okay.
yep.
Yeah, I actually got my start. We were still hand installing, and peer to peer networks was a
Yes.
very, very common conversation back in those days.
Token ring.
Yes, yes. I think we both had the joy of learning pretty early on, like what we liked and what we didn't like. You said token ring, and just made me just have like this
Yeah.
throwback I don't want to go to.
Yeah.
Like,
I've been under a number of desks where the spaghetti of cabling and craziness. I mean, it took up physical space. It was amazing. It was
yes,
amazing.
yes, yes. Back in the days when people built servers in closets
Yes,
until it got too hot, and then it was like,
but
wait, this is too hot
yeah, no
in here.
doubt. But
Yeah.
yeah, Robin, I did that for about 2 years and then quickly pivoted. I grew up in Louisiana. I moved from Louisiana to Birmingham, Alabama, started my own systems integration company because I had 2 years of experience. I mean, what could go wrong, right?
Right, right.
So
That's why you're here
I,
today.
yeah, I got to that goal of being an entrepreneur, and despite me trying to do everything I could to mess it all up, we were super successful. I had some fantastic young, incredible talent. It was that typical, scene where you see a whole bunch of young guys eating pizza and
Yeah.
drinking coffee and just building clone PCs and networking and all that stuff. So it was so engaging and
Yes.
exciting. And I did that for 15 years, man.
That's awesome.
And we were super successful. I started converting over to a managed services provider, but that was before we even knew what to call it.
Okay.
And when I did that, we started getting a ton of recognition and interest from private equity and venture capital guys. And so in 2008, I sold my company to a private equity organization out of Boston called Symmetric Capital, and
Okay.
they quickly merged my company with TechLinks, a well-known brand
Okay. Okay.
here in Birmingham, Alabama. So, and man, had a great run there, 11 years. Eventually became the president of TechLinks, and we transacted that business in 2018. So I've been through a number of acquisitions. I didn't recognize, my background actually was operations. I
Yes.
went back and got my master's degree, and during this whole thing, and I really focused on like corporate frameworks. And
Mm.
my last paper that I wrote was on corporate frameworks and how they would impact and influence the IT industry. And I was a bit prophetic in that I was basically talking about managed services and how,
Right.
process and procedure was going to take over instead of just, you had to have great engineering talent, but you had to have engineering talent that, knew how to overall automate and productize what we did. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's been a wild ride. I took about a 2-year hiatus from IT specifically, stayed in technology, worked with an
Okay.
information management company. And then in 2020, right at the height of COVID, General Informatics called me and said, "Hey, we're looking to grow this organization, and you've done this before. We'd love to get you guys on board here." And so I went to my wife and said, "Honey, what do you think about, getting back in IT and potentially running a company that's headquartered out of Louisiana? We're both from Louisiana." And she's
Yeah.
like, "Heck no." And I was like, "Okay, I get it." I said, "But just read the job description and then let me know." And she read the
Yeah.
job description and came back to me and she's like, "You got to do this, Don. This
That's
is you."
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's how I got here.
Okay, well, I love that. It's a great story. Uh, I started my first business in 2009, middle 2009, so
Yeah.
during the recession. And I didn't really know what
Perfect timing. Perfect
perfect
timing.
timing. Right, like
Yeah.
whatever. I didn't know about timing then.
Yeah.
That was just like whatever. But I had customers and I had people I was able to convert a consulting business over. But years before then, I had discovered that I wouldn't have considered myself technical. I knew how to use email.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then I'd look like I was definitely
Oh, you
I
were a
walked into
genius.
places and they thought I was crazy. I tell the story all the time. It's nauseating probably for most people who've heard it. But like I told my real estate broker back then, I was like, one day people are going to actually shop for houses online.
Yes.
And they were like, what? Okay.
What? Yeah,
And
not
so
gonna
now
happen.
in retrospect, I'm like, I was a visionary. I was
Yeah.
like 20 years old. Like,
Yeah.
what in the world? Yes, I'd look back and go, gosh, some of the stuff we've done has been we've done some spectacular things when tech was not necessarily as spectacular as it is
That's right. But look,
today.
I'll tell you a story. In 1988, I'm really, really dating myself now. I worked for an insurance company, and every time they would update the mainframe, we had to quote off manually, like off these actuarial tables. And I was horrible at math. And so I'm like, God, I can't believe I got to do this. And this is how I put myself through college. I was trying to sell insurance so that I could make money to put myself through college. And I asked the agent, I was like, "Hey man, do you have a personal computer anywhere?" And he's like, I think we got one in the back, which nobody, he's like, "I bought it. I've never used it." And so I grabbed it, and sure enough, man, they had the Lotus 123
Okay.
on the computer. And so I took the actuarial table and I just put it in the spreadsheet, and I'm like, "Hey, we can do all our quoting here." And he was like, "Oh my goodness, you're a programmer." I'm like, "No,
Right.
no,
Exactly.
no, I'm not a programmer." But that's really what made me think, okay, this PC thing's got value because
Okay. Yeah.
all you have to do is run the application. So
Can
that's
we just
how.
say that's actually like you're a data professional now? Like that's you got your entrepreneurial start as a
Yeah,
data professional by using something like Lotus 123 and maybe Word Perfect was also on the
yeah.
machine at that
It,
time.
it probably was, if I'm sure of it.
That's amazing. So I'm excited to have you on this episode of Real Talk, and I love how you just introduced yourself because again, you're perfect to come in here. You've had a great career. And as I've shared with you earlier, like people get introduced to us as thought leaders was a word
Yeah,
that you said maybe that's thought leadership.
yeah,
And they see us at this point in our career without the real story along the way that they can look at our histories, they can look at the
yeah,
things we've done, but they don't really get to see all the pivots. And so in this season, the questions all revolve around pivots, and every guest gets the same
yeah,
question. So again, our goal is to have genuine, real talk. If we get through all these questions, we get through them. If we don't, that's fine as long as we're having a good conversation. And I love some of your reflections, and I actually like your I'm not telling her everything until I get there
That's right.
approach. So this is like Robin reacting to Don in real time,
That's
which
what I
actually
want.
might be like we could maybe do a YouTube
Yeah.
for that. So awesome. Okay, so listen, I want to ask you the very first question, which is what is the earliest career related pivot that you can remember?
So if we start with the IT industry being the career start, because that was really the first pivot, it was from this thought process around, all the things I was learning in management and, in college. And, I thought I was going to go sell insurance, honestly. And
Okay.
so I just had that single focus. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just felt like that was kind of the answer for me because of my personality. And I felt like if given the opportunity, I could talk about just about anything. So I just
Okay.
I just didn't know what it was going to be, right? Like what was I going to
Right.
really. And so when I as I told that story, when I jumped into kind of working with PCs and whatnot, I thought, hey, there's something to this. So that was my first pivot. But as I got involved in that, I recognized first of all that there are a ton of pivots in the technology industry, right? It's happened over multiple years. It's probably why I've kind of stayed with this career because it changes all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I'm not one to enjoy doing something over and over and over again, right? That's
Yeah, me
just
too.
not me. I want something new. And so this industry obviously provided that. I think the earliest pivot where I felt like we really needed to kind of change the way we approached things was that move from Novell NetWare to Windows NT back in the day,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, because it was a philosophical change for anything else. I mean, it was going
Yes.
from, the command line to this GUI interface, and back then, and you probably remember this, the GUI was never as good as the command line, and to this day, we jump out to the command line all the time because we feel
Yeah.
like we have more control. So for our engineers and for me, it was very much a complete shift and change in what we were doing. And so for me, that was the earliest pivot. And it was, I won't say painful, but it was very difficult to get traction because we felt like we knew where the industry was going, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to make sure we kind of landed the plane elegantly. And
Yes.
instead of just, moving away from Novell NetWare completely and then not having, you know, meaningful work to be done
Yes.
because everybody had not necessarily embraced the new NT environment yet. So,
Those are crazy times. I can remember them now. I was not so like you knew at some point you wanted to be an entrepreneur.
yes.
At some point in my career, people just started calling me one.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Sometimes we
And
get
when they
there.
call me one now, I'm like, well, it really depends on how you like. I class myself like I wouldn't consider myself an entrepreneur as much as I consider myself a small business owner. But
Yes.
do I have entrepreneurial capabilities where like we develop products, we can sell them? Yes. But I look at that as more like tech enablement. So I have this really complex relationship with entrepreneurship, but you definitely meet my personal definition, and I think the definition of serial. Like you've done many
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think the difference between our definition is really about, my personal opinion is your approach to salesmanship and to your point, the vibe, right?
The vibe. Yeah.
Like I would say you're the kind of person where you're like, we got to get this perfect before we go to market. I'm like, let's go to freaking market and let's get it perfect.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, yeah, very early on in my entrepreneurial career, it was, yeah, it was, we weren't using terminology like MVP,
Yeah, yeah,
and function over form. Like, show me something functional, give me to the minimum. I would say, yeah, as I got my early start, I was definitely that, but as I've learned through 15 years of navigating Think Data with Daniel, it's like,
yeah.
can we just solve the problem?
Yeah, exactly.
And we do feel a little bit different and unique. Like we're not, like, I don't sell software, right? But
Right.
I've been around it for a long time. So talking about, back in the day when you were making that pivot, I was not an entrepreneur yet. I had not gone out on my own yet, but I was an active member of our community. And so I would go to the Microsoft meetings. And I can remember a very contentious meeting when they decided they were going to create Exchange Online
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
do hosted Exchange. Like, I've never seen a group. They were, they were upset.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
you're about to get our business. And my thoughts were like, y'all better be figuring out how to support hosted Exchange.
look, let me tell you. So that was a big deal with TechLinks. And first, I want to give a shout out to Stuart Rayburn, who is the founder or one of the co-founders of TechLinks. I learned a lot from Stuart, and I've been so fortunate to have incredible mentors over the time of kind of learning this IT industry.
Yeah.
Um, I remember asking Stuart one time. Stuart had asked me a question, and I said, "Man, that's a really difficult question." And he goes, "I'm not going to ask you the easy ones."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, I better be ready for that." So, but we were providing hosted exchange, out of the data center for about, man, 4 or 5 years, and really kind of setting the market. And when they kept talking about Office 365 and how they were going to do hosted exchange, we were looking at Microsoft going, why would I do that?
You're
Like,
killing us.
you're killing us.
Yeah.
And I remember, I won't mention the number, but they came to us and said, look, if you'll just transfer all your customers, we'll give you X amount of dollars. I'm like, you're willing to buy the business? And they were. And so we recognize as a business, okay, there's like, this is not a whim. They're going in this direction. So we've got to learn how to be able to provide that service and do a good job of it, make it
Yes.
super efficient. So while we might be accepting less margins, we can reduce the cost that it takes to maintain.
And look at
So,
where you are now. Like,
geez,
let's just say, had you not embraced the pivot, right?
yeah,
You would have to have a data center so large today just to support just a handful of customers, and the amount of communication, documentation, attachment, like,
and
yeah,
not only that, Robin, it's you'd have been the enemy of Microsoft, and that
correct. Like,
is
yeah,
like
right.
that's not a really good investment decision, right?
No, you already have to pay to play.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So
So let's just, yeah, like,
yeah,
that's a huge pivot. And I think it also speaks to, part of our history here too. Like, I started teaching Windows 95.
yep.
I began teaching Microsoft Office because everybody just called me the little office girl. And it wasn't a suite yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Like, and
Right.
then all of a sudden it became a suite, and then all of a sudden there's Exchange Online, and then all of a sudden there's this new ribbon format. Now all of a sudden we've got cloud drives, and I was like, this is a massive change. We can create materials around this and support enterprise, because we love to support
Yeah.
enterprise. And yeah, the pivots of all of this happen very frequently. So, like, for people who want to start up tech companies, it's like, do you?
Yeah. No,
Are you sure?
the whole move to SaaS, think about what Microsoft went through. I mean, they were selling perpetual licenses and recognizing, hey, we can't continue to do this. This is not, people won't upgrade fast enough. And
Yes.
such a huge pivot for them, and obviously for us as well. But yeah, it's funny. I go back to that pivot from Novell NetWare to NT, and I was thinking about all the challenges, and I mean, we had literally arguments, between engineers where they were like, "See, this doesn't happen in Novell. We can control this environment, and we can't control this environment in NT." And it was like, "Hey guys, we look."
You're not wrong,
Yeah, you're not wrong.
but it ain't happening.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so, It's interesting, but yeah, that would definitely be the earliest pivot. And man, it didn't stop. We continue to see it.
Yeah, it's not,
And
I don't think it's going to stop. And I think it's interesting too, because not only are you discussing a pivot even for yourself, but you're having to navigate people through a pivot.
yeah,
And there's plenty of studies out there that show, like, and you don't even need a study. Most humans don't like change.
right. No,
And when we've
right.
learned how to do something and then the software changes, we're mad at the IT department.
Right, right.
It's like, why'd you do that to us? And like I know you feel this as well because of the conversations, but the state of change that we're about to see
Ooh,
is another pivot we're all facing, but we're all facing it like literally in real time together. So it's exciting. But if you're a person who really doesn't like change and
well,
you're leading a company right now,
yeah.
what would you say to those leaders that
You,
don't want to pivot?
I'm going to go back to the word that we started this out with, which is if you struggle with entrepreneurship, if you struggle with, because that's one of the things that I see about entrepreneurs is they are very agile, right?
Yes.
They see a problem, they come up with a resolution, they see another problem or challenge or opportunity, and they come up with another way to address. And so I do see that those leaders who are super rigid in their approach are going to struggle because there's going
Mm,
to be a seismic shift in how we deal with
yeah.
overall problem solving, how we think of even industries like the SaaS industry is about to change, right? I mean, what AI is going to proliferate for the common user, the average user is going to be pretty remarkable. I would say that you know and I want to be careful in how I illustrate this. Like the super intelligent guy or gal is going to get quite a bit more intelligent, but the average individual is going to skyrocket.
Oh,
And it
oh.
is a full force multiplier
Could
for
they could. I
good,
would argue they could
fair, fair.
under leadership that agrees to pivot.
I agree.
But you're
And,
not going to see a remarkable increase in that gap closure. We would call that a gap closure, right? You're
yeah,
not going to close that gap if you have the typical approach, which is, okay, the technical people will figure this out.
yeah, no,
Okay,
that's
now we're all trying to figure it out. Everybody's got to be involved in the process.
yeah. I have in a lot of the mentoring sessions and training sessions that I've done for like new entrepreneurs and folks who are starting MSPs. If you're not in our industry, the thing that I tell leaders all the time is there's two things that you cannot just leave to the IT company or leave to someone else or outsource. You better be super engaged in cybersecurity. You better be super engaged in artificial intelligence because both can wreck you.
Yep.
And it's you'll like this statement. I can't tell you how often now we are talking about the data again, as
No,
opposed
you
to
better be.
yeah,
You
as
better
opposed to the
be. You can't.
application,
You
as opposed
can't.
to
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Don't
mean,
blow my brain up. I will jump all over this conversation.
I knew I could get you riled up on that one for
I mean,
sure.
it's again, yeah, pivots in Excel, like, and pivots in our career and how we build a pivot in the future is dramatically
Yeah,
different. It's all happening in real time at one time. I wish we could just call it all data and AI,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But I think we will see remarkable use cases. I think the an enhancement to the end user, which you and I share a common thread of caring about the end user.
right.
Who is on the end on the other side of the screen? And that is not common in a lot of, like, we serve the end user, but we don't always love them. But I get the feeling like in your firm and in my firm, we're thinking about that end user. We're thinking about, yeah. You can do these artificial intelligence things up here, but you can also do it here.
Yeah.
And there's just so many things that we can identify
It's
when
interesting.
we're willing to pivot.
It's interesting. I remember like it, growing up in this industry, we were kind of like not well known. We were just kind of off on the side in these various businesses and doing some really incredible things. And I remember when like IT companies and computer companies were starting to like advertise on like the, on with the NFL or during the Super Bowl. It made me nervous. I'm like, they're figuring out who we are. Like this is
Right.
going to be like mainstream. Like, what value am I going to bring if everybody knows about this stuff? And so when you talk about embracing a pivot, I remember asking myself that question. I'm like, man, no, this is actually an incredible opportunity. Like, we're going to get to the strategic table. It used to be, right? Leaders would go out and make decisions about their products or services and how they were going to innovate. And then
Mm-hmm.
they'd go to the IT company and go, group and go, hey, this is what we're going to do. What do you think? It's like, well, you can't do any of that because your infrastructure won't support it. You don't have the application. It's like we
Yeah.
were an afterthought. Now, I'd say as little as 10 years ago, if you were the engineer or IT person who could sit at the strategic table, you had a ticket to ride
Yes.
immediately.
Yes.
And
Great.
and I think about those pivots, and Robin, you asked me about this once before. Like, did you ever have a pivot where you just didn't want to do it? Like, it's like
Oh,
I
yes.
don't want to be involved. And look, when we started moving from that traditional, ride in on your white horse and bring the Exchange server back up because it had crashed to, and by the way, when you did that, they were singing your praises and clapping, on the way out the door. And we shifted over to hosted exchange and it goes down for a second. You are being cursed like the dog that you are.
Oh, yeah.
It's it's a totally different shift. And I remember the room I was in. I'm sitting there having a conversation with an engineer. We had just had an issue with a customer with their hosted platform, and they were not happy. And the engineer looked at me and goes, "Man, why did you change to this model? Why did we do this? They're never going to think of us as heroes again." I'm like, "Bro, I didn't change it. The industry changed, and if
Yes.
we don't change with it and recognize that riding in on our white horse to save the day is not like we gotta make the bad day never happen. That's the new approach."
That is that is such a critical, like, that's a critical insight, but it is also, I just gotta say it, it's a level of maturity as a business
Hmm.
to reach a stage in which you're like, yeah, we can't continue this way. This is the way that it has to be, and deal with all of that. Yeah, you may be right,
Right.
but you have to be mature as a company to do that. And so I think when we talk about building startup companies and tech companies, and we start from the try to get yourself funded and bought and out the door method, like, I wonder about all the potential business owners who, like, they could really be great business owners. They may not go that venture route, but are they prepared for the amount of change that they're going to have to face all along the way? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't do you remember teaching that to anybody in your early days, or anybody teaching you that? I don't remember anybody saying, until I got to a certain point, they were like, as an entrepreneur, you have to pivot.
Yeah, I was fortunate in that I was told something early on in my career that really helped me through those pivot points and change conversations, because it kind of changed my, the way I thought about it.
Yeah.
And I try to remind people, most people are resistant to change, especially in the business world, for a very admirable reason. And that is, if you stop doing the thing that the amount of value that you can bring to the organization goes down,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And so if you think of it on a curve, like, so if that curve goes down, my job as a leader is to convince that individual, yeah, it may go down for a couple of days, couple of weeks, whatever the transition period is. But the new tool set, the new process, the new concept, the new way of doing things, when you get up to speed, is going to increase your ceiling. So where you might have been able to perform at a 7, consistently across the board, man, you're going to be able to perform at a 9. And typically when you explain it that way, people feel a little bit more comfortable with that change and recognize that, hey, this change might actually be worth it. And I was taught this, I'm probably about 15 or 20 years ago, and it really did kind of change my mindset whenever I saw somebody being super resistant and really kind of, um, almost feel like, God, are you doing this on purpose? Why are
No,
you, why are you,
yeah,
why are
you
you?
did it already.
Yeah. And the answer, I kept telling myself, look, they just want to be valuable, and that's an admirable thing. They're trying to do the right thing on behalf of the
Yes.
company. And so embrace that part of it. And then we'll try to get through the change part of it together. And I've had
Yeah, that's
some success with that.
amazing. Yeah, that's amazing as a leader to recognize that,
Hmm.
right? But again, I worry for organizations where their leaders, like again, we're talking about, you ever face a pivot you really didn't want to face? Like, well,
Right.
I didn't want to totally change the way we're doing everything. I didn't want to rewrite versions
Right.
of my book again. Like, I don't want to. Like, I would love to just sit back a little bit and
Yeah.
relax a little bit, but I think it's wise from a leadership position to say, hey, like, so what? You're going to lose a little bit here when we automate this role, but
Right.
you're going to be able to gain this. I don't think that's the common messages that we're putting out. I like Daniel asked me the other day my opinion on, like, when I'm seeing like the statistics that like 80% of the workforce is going to, be displaced, and I'm like, their roles may be displaced, but
Yeah.
the people could be shifted. So I look forward to watching the companies who embrace the pivot and start the shifting.
Yeah.
And I hope they have your attitude about it. I really do hope they have your attitude about it. Your people will succeed because of your willingness to look at tech and their adoption of it that way.
It's funny. I think that whole fear, uncertainty, and doubt plays a role here, especially when we're talking about artificial intelligence, because some people that I've talked to are just scared to move forward.
Yeah.
We've actually, aside from some investment in technology and building our platform and all that stuff that we did as General Informatics, we also focused on the process of adoption, because
Mm,
if we can come to a client of ours or a prospect and say, look, it's more than just a platform, it's more than just a specific model, whether you use Grok or whatever LLM you choose.
right.
It's more about the process in which you go through. And we call it crawl, walk, run, right? Let's make sure we're being iterative, because look, are the models going to be totally different 12 months from now? Yes. 2 years ago, maybe more than that now, 3 years ago, when we really started, this is right before ChatGPT unleashed,
Hmm.
and really kind of changed the world, quite honestly. We started really looking at machine learning and what we were
Okay.
going to do from an IT perspective. I had some experience with the company that I worked with that did information management. We were building neural networks. That's the first time I'd ever been exposed to that.
Yeah, it's
But I was
awesome.
like, I remember looking at that going, wow, that's going to change our industry as a whole. And then when ChatGPT came out, I'm like, okay, I better get busy. So,
Yeah.
you know, I knew as an IT provider or technology provider, people were going to ask us the questions about AI and what it was going to do to the industry and how we were going to embrace it, et cetera, et cetera. And so while we were working on the platform, we were also working on the process. And part of that process is very much very much this conversation. Accept that change is happening,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Make sure that you're iteratively pivoting, because you can extract value very quickly. That's the one thing about AI that I like,
Oh,
is that
definitely.
you don't have to invest a whole lot of money to get value out of it pretty quickly.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. And so you can be iterative as a company and say, I'm going to take this step because this is all I feel comfortable with, and I'm going to extract value out of it, and then see what other ideas I might have so that we can implement, those types of processes or procedures in a different area of our business or what have you. So that's been fun to do. And
I would
again,
say this is a moment where I would like to say fortune smiles on the bold.
yes,
Right. And
yes.
I would say you mentioned something, and I would love for you to kind of tell everybody about this. You talked about using early versions of DALL-E to create visuals.
Oh yeah, man.
And you made a strategic choice.
This is a super good story, and I had no idea I was making the story when it was happening. Like
Okay, I love that. That makes it
yeah.
so good. It's lore.
So,
My kids call that lore, by the way.
oh, I love it. I
Okay,
love
so you
it.
got a vibe and now lore.
So I
All the
got
things.
asked to do a presentation on AI, and a portion of the presentation was, the ethical use of AI, and
Mm,
who is truly training the model, and is it creating, discontent, or issues of equality. And I've had just absolutely zero like mindset around that. I was like,
yeah,
man, it's just data. It like, what are we talking about here? How could
yeah.
it be biased? How could there be an ethical question? And so I was creating this presentation, and it happened to be ethical use of AI in healthcare.
Okay.
So there was really kind of multiple portions of the presentation, and basically what I said was, as I was doing the slides, I was using DALL-E, and I was asking it questions. And the first question that I asked was, you know, give me an image of AI being embraced in a human delivered healthcare services business. And the first image I got, there was a robot in the middle, like
Okay, yeah.
in the center, and like there was humans on the outside. And I answered, no, I want the human to be at the center, not the robot. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute, that's what they asked me to do in this presentation, is talk about ethics or bias. And I noticed, I said, from now on, whatever my first prompt is, I'm just going with that image. Whatever the image is, I'm going with that image. And there were things like prompts like, show me a rural healthcare um, um, scene. And I'm telling you, the images I was getting was blowing my mind. Like,
Yeah,
like no, like multi-ethnic didn't happen. It was not.
yeah,
There was
yeah.
very little of that. What what Dolly thought back then of rural healthcare was, we're obviously really stupid and we use leeches to,
Oh
like
my God.
it was crazy. Like the imagery was so biased, quite honestly.
Yeah, but it taught you about bias
And so
in a spectacular way.
Robin, I literally, the presentation took kind of shape itself in that I was really talking about two very different subjects. And one was, how do you embrace artificial intelligence in rural healthcare so that
No,
we can
man.
create great outcomes for our patients, as well as, oh, by the way, be careful of artificial intelligence because there's bias. And I entered that assuming that there was none, and I exited that presentation believing that there was. And so it really did kind of change my approach to looking at the data and
That
how
is
they're being
so
trained.
great. Yeah,
It was
because one of
amazing.
our questions is like the spectacularly broke your expectations where you mentioned this.
Yeah.
But I think I love the story of it, and like, but what's so valuable is that in your attempt to learn it, it taught you something.
Yeah.
And had you not been willing to be like, okay, whatever, I'm doing it,
Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
have lost like, and I don't care what anybody says, the fact that you had something happen in your brain
Yeah.
that opened up pathways for you, it has probably had a positive impact on every project that you have touched since then.
Yeah. I mean, what it really did was change my approach in recognizing that this tendency might exist, right? And so, and what it, back then there were not a whole bunch of models to play with, right?
Yeah,
What I
yeah.
what I recognize now is, man, I can use a lot of different models and get a different outcome, when I'm prompting a particular AI engine. And like I was doing a project where the responses needed to be more emotional,
Okay.
and it's amazing the difference in the models, regardless of what persona you build for that particular AI model. So it definitely made me understand that all of these artificial intelligence models are not created equal,
Correct.
and
Right.
they're not trained exactly the same way.
Right.
And so I think it made me a better AI prompter slash AI engineer, whatever you want to call that these days.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate in that most of the time when we innovate our products and services, I get to lead those projects. As a CEO, I get to choose what I get to
Right.
do.
You love
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, and so I love doing that because I truly feel like not only am I good at the technology side, but I understand productization and how to market it.
Yeah.
And and this has been a wild ride because there has not been a project that is like AI because it is left brain, right brain. You do get
Yes.
multiple and different disparate responses, but you also get some really valuable
Insight.
outcomes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
The
insight for
insight you
sure.
get. Like I like the discussion. I also too use different. I've gotten to the point now where I know, like, I kind of like this tool for this. I kind of like this tool for that. I think this is where I want to go with this tool. This tool's not going to give me that. I'm going to do this one.
Yeah,
I think one of the biggest challenges is not pivoting to every tool
right,
because
right.
there is a massive amount of capabilities out there. We
Yes.
have a whole other discussion on that. I love your story about the visualization and it impacting you to understand bias.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. So see, there you go. You shared something that surprised me on air. You
See,
have to tell
I
me.
haven't even told you the Captain Bob
I
story
know,
yet.
I know. So it's like we have this. Let's see, where is this question at in here? Oh yeah, it's this one. So we're talking about breaking expectations. That's the like, when was a time that the data spectacularly broke your expectations? You just shared that. And then the next one is of interest because you're like, when you broke someone else's expectations was the
Yeah.
question. And you
So
wrote all these things and I read it, but then it was like, I'll have to tell you about Captain Bob. I'm doing that on air. So set us up and tell us about Captain Bob.
so I'll go back and talk a little bit about two different personas. The first one, when I got to General Informatics, I noticed in the email thread that this young lady, her name is Megan Landry, she kept getting copied on certain things, and especially things where salespeople were interacting with us. And I had never met Megan. We were only 33 employees. I didn't understand why I'd never met Megan. We were growing the business. I mean, we're over 200 people now, so there
Yeah.
are people that I haven't had the opportunity to talk to. But back then, I'm like, "Where's Megan?" And
Yeah.
they're like, "Well, Megan doesn't exist." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
I
Like,
get emails from Megan all the time.
like Megan's sending me emails all the time. They're like, "Well, Megan is who we send all the salespeople to." And so they communicate with Megan, and every once in a while, we'll just answer for her just to keep her alive and make sure that, so that way we don't have to deal with the salespeople. I'm like, that's really brilliant and kind of
It's actually
and kind
brilliant.
of and kind of wrong, but it's really
Yeah.
brilliant. So when we started training our own artificial intelligence module to be our human resources division, I'm like, it's got to be Megan, right? So
Right.
so if you come to GI, you're going to get an email from Megan Landry, and if you need to talk with her, she's going to give you everything there is to know about GI. She knows.
That's amazing.
And if you
That she
call,
knows.
do what?
That she knows.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you call my direct line, you're going to get Megan. She's going to answer the phone, and she knows how to get in touch with me. She knows,
Oh my gosh.
absolutely. So anyway, I'm talking to a client, and we're telling them, about Megan and how it worked. And like we were working with their team on coming up with a persona so that they could really get engagement in the organization. And they're like, well, look, we have a CEO who has been here for 45 years. Business was like 65 years old, and he had worked up through the ranks and become the CEO. He had been the CEO for 45 years in the maritime industry.
Okay.
Very, very well known. Many articles had been written about him, and his name was Bob. And they're like, we love Bob, and we can't believe that Bob is, going to be retiring. And they're like, can we make it about Bob? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, we call him Captain Bob on a regular basis. Can we just make
Oh,
that?
that's awesome.
And so I was like, man, I love this. And I said, do you have a picture of Bob? She's like, yeah. So I went and made an avatar of Bob. It looks like him. He's got a captain's hat on, and he's in their SharePoint site. And I said, do you have any content about Bob? And she's like, oh, do we have content? They hand me like gigabytes of articles,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh, brilliant.
information, decisions he had made in the maritime industry, like the impact he had, on that company and others. And I was able to really hone this model, and I was really excited. I really wasn't there yet mentally. I was excited about it. Don't get me wrong. But when I presented it, and I'm like, hey, here's Captain Bob asking some questions, I had two ladies that were near tears. Like, oh
Oh,
my God, we get Captain Bob like
yep,
forever and ever. And at that point, I was like, you know what? That is impact that I had no idea
correct. That's amazing.
that this project was going to create. And so when we talk about like some of the projects with prospects, like our salespeople are like, tell them about Captain Bob.
Tell me
Tell
about
them
Captain Bob.
yeah, tell them about Captain
Good,
Bob.
man. Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, we're developing one here too,
Yeah.
and her name is Dottie Cross.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, for cross your T's and dot your
Yeah,
I's.
I love it. Ooh, I gotta write
Yeah,
that
and right
down.
now
Dottie
Dottie
Cross.
can quiz you, can surface information from our books.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but definitely we can talk. Like, you definitely have a vibe and you definitely have
Yes.
lore. Like, this is ridiculous. The more I get to know you, the more I'm like, man, that Dawn
Thank
is
you.
amazing. Okay,
You
so here we are. We're towards the end here.
Yeah.
I could talk to you forever, but this is the final question. I think we pretty much made it through most of the
Did we make
questions.
it? Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah, but this last one is, what's your data point?
Oh man, that's such a good question. And most people, so I'm very structured. And as entrepreneurial as I am, I have what I call the 6 areas of life fulfillment that I focus on. And I'm I've published 3 books.
Oh, cool.
This is in my book, and this is a lot about kind of making sure that I am trying to find fulfillment in what I do, both professionally and personally. And
Love it.
so the 6 areas of life fulfillment is family, career, spiritual, community, charity, and finance. All those things, in my opinion, are those things that we're seeking fulfillment in. And so during the day, I will write, I always say of the 6, I usually have 3 or 4 like
Okay.
working pretty well, and the others I need to spend some time on. And what I'll do is just write down, hey, I need to focus on this with regard to finance, or I need to focus on this with regard to charity. And Robin, what I've found, like unequivocally, is when like I'm getting closer to all 6 really clipping, the only thing left is to give back to somebody else,
I love
right?
that. Yeah.
And so I try to get as close to that as possible, because it does allow me to invest in others. And, that's always been the thing that has led me to more and more, not just fulfillment, but success, like actual success. And so that's the thing I track all the time. One of the things that is an outcome of this that I also track is something that I call a legacy impression. And I've always said that, my mentor is my grandfather. He is a legend. And I've always thought to myself, like, what does it take to be a legend? Like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you get there? And, there's this really crappy thing about being a legend is a lot of times legends have to die, right?
Yeah.
And so how do I measure and track, you know, being in the pathway of leaving a legacy? And I came up with this thing called legacy impression, which is basically nothing more than you have you have evidence, whether it was told to you or shared with you or emailed to you or what have you, that you had a meaningful impression on someone else's life that made it better, easier, fulfilling. And whenever you get those legacy impressions, like write them down, celebrate them,
Yes.
save them, so that when you're having a crappy day, which I have plenty of those, you can go back and say, you know what, I don't get it wrong all the time. I do get it wrong sometimes, and this is a good example of how I don't, like I need to be focused on the good stuff. And what I can do is I look at my day planner, and whenever I get a legacy impression, I will jot it down. And if I'm, paging through the legacy planner, I do it electronically. I'm not,
Yes. Yes.
I if I go a long period of time without a legacy impression, I can go back to the 6 areas of life fulfillment and something's broken.
Ah, that's amazing.
Like I can go back and go, okay, I'm not spending enough time, spiritually really challenging myself and doing the right thing on behalf of others as opposed to focused on just my career or just myself.
Yeah, you're amazing, Don. Like
Oh, thank you.
that's awesome. I love the legacy impressions. I love the approach. We will definitely drop the link to the book in the
Yeah,
comments. I think
thank
people
you.
would love that.
Yes,
I
yes,
do.
thank you.
I just every time I get more insight into you, I realize this guy's a data geek.
I am.
He's such a data guy. Like you have all those other accolades, but I know what you are. You're a data person.
Yes.
Don, I look forward to having many, many, many more conversations with you. This has been a spectacular opportunity getting to know you and talking through so many interesting, cool pivots in your career. And I definitely believe people will benefit from it. And again, I appreciate the fact that you care about legacy impressions.
Robin, thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time with me. It's been special. I look forward to the next.
Don, thank you so much. I absolutely enjoyed this very real talk.